Welcome to The Orbit. It's an ongoing interview series where we interview basically interested folks that are interested in things, a lot of them entrepreneurs online. And this week we're interviewing Moji of Blule Daisi Consulting.
Yep.
Moji is new to Seattle and recently was on another interview, I think 2 weeks ago or something, with Sedona Christina. And today I'm going to try to make sure I tap into stuff that you haven't already talked about before.
Awesome.
But to start off, tell us a little bit about Blule Daisi Consulting. What is it?
Yeah, so I started Blule Daisi Consulting in October of last year, actually, while I was still living in Wisconsin. And basically why it came about is because I have always been super interested in sustainability, and I joined my company's green team and we're trying to do sustainable stuff, and I'm realizing that we're not making as much effect as I wanted to see. Like, we're doing small things. We had Earth Day initiatives. It was really cool, but it wasn't as impactful as I wanted it to be. So I thought someone should help these people out and help them be more impactful. And then I realized I'm somebody. I could start a business and make this happen. So Blule Daisi is a sustainability consulting company that helps small businesses reduce their waste and implement more sustainable business practices.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I think immediately upon looking at your business, it's that's something I can get behind.
Yeah.
And I heard you had your first client recently.
Yeah, yes.
And how did you find this client? Yeah,
so it was through already personal connections. So
Great.
While I was building this business, I had all these ideas of things I want, because sustainability is such a broad term. It could be energy, it could be land use, it could be agriculture. Sustainability is so broad, and I was trying to figure out what my niche was gonna be. So I was just pinging ideas off of friends, and I realized the thing that I was most interested in was being zero waste, or quote unquote zero waste.
Right.
It's an industrial term, so I don't make zero trash, and no one does. But the idea of it is what I was most interested in. So I kind of asked her, I'm like, hey, you have a business. Can I just play with your business and help you out? And she was like, yeah, sure. So that was my first client.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what sort of strategies did you implement there?
Yeah, so with her, it was more on the marketing side of things. Mm-hmm. So she already is a online zero waste retail store. So she already thinks about sustainability all the time. But she was having trouble marketing that and really playing that up when she's selling her business. So to anyone else, it just looks like an online retail store. What's so special about your store? And I was trying to help her work out strategies to make her store special and make customers realize that it's zero waste and that she's special,
Marketing.
So, yeah, exactly. So it's more of a marketing project.
Cool.
Yeah.
So as far as you, I want to hear a little bit about what was your early life like, where are you from, and what brought you here?
Yeah, great question. So originally, I'm from Michigan. I'm from the suburbs of Detroit, Farmington Hills, if any of you know that.
Small town.
Yeah, it's a medium-sized town. It's very cliche suburban America, everything you think about, yes, that happened there. So I'm from there, and I grew up there, went to high school there, and after I went to high school, I went to college in Ann Arbor at U of M. After college, I moved out to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so I lived there for a year. I volunteered in AmeriCorps, and I worked in a 9th grade classroom in an underserved school, so I did that. After Milwaukee, I moved to Madison, Wisconsin, so I just kept moving westward slowly.
Moved that way.
Yeah, so I lived in Madison for about 3 years, and I worked in commercial construction there. So I was a project engineer, and I worked on building apartment buildings, high-rises, all that kind of stuff. And I loved that job, and it was so much fun, but that's kind of when I had my aha moment with sustainability and realized that's what I need to be doing with my time. So it was actually a really hard decision to leave that job, because not only was it a comfortable salary job, I loved it, my coworkers were great, but I just needed to do sustainability. And
was it just because it was your passion?
Yeah, and it was a gut feeling too, because I came to Seattle a couple years before I quit my job, just on a vacation, and the first time I set foot in the city, I just fell in love with it. I had no idea what it was, but I knew I had to be here. And
that was it.
Yeah.
It was just, I was about to ask, why did you choose Seattle?
No,
but
it wasn't
was
a
just
job.
an intuition
It
thing?
really, it's weird too, because people just so it wasn't for a job, it wasn't for any, I'm no, it really was just a gut feeling, And when I had my idea about sustainability plus this gut feeling, I realized like this is the perfect spot for me to experiment with this idea and just see what happens. So it's really just like the environment of the city is already so sustainably minded, but I don't think what I'm doing exists yet. So I thought this was the perfect kind of little like test tube to play with it.
That's an exciting position to be in.
Yeah, exactly.
Significantly.
Yeah.
You went to school, though, for engineering.
Yes, mechanical engineering. Yeah. So I described all my steps, but none of them make sense.
Right. So how did that happen? Why did you choose that initially?
Yeah, so I actually kind of did. So loop back to college. I studied mechanical engineering in Detroit, basically, which means that I should have gone into automotive. I should have worked at one of the big 3 car companies. That's what my parents had done. That's what not all of my friends, but most of my friends did with that degree.
What was expected.
Right, exactly. And I remember, I think it was sophomore or junior year career fair where they have all these great companies come in. You just have to go up to them and kind of pitch yourself. And I just got to the front of the line and I was like, not only do I not know what to say, I don't even want to pretend to try because I don't want to work for you. And I just like,
That's amazing. It seems like you have a very good like sense of...
I don't always act on it. So this is like me acting on it moving here. But I was just like almost paralyzed when I got to the front. I was like, I don't want to even like kind of BS my way through this little interaction. Like, I'm just going to go and like reevaluate. So I took a couple of classes that were just like nothing to do with my major. One of them was a sustainability class. It was like doing life cycle assessments for products. So figuring out at each point of production all the way to like the end of life, like what all the stages are. And I was just so jazzed by it. Like it was just so cool. So I just kind of slowly started deviating away from what I was supposed to be doing and just kind of experimented in other things.
With experiments,
what's
it like trying to function in a field that almost doesn't exist very well yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually just had a conversation with someone else who's in this industry as well, and she was talking about how she pitches herself as a sustainability consultant when she started a few years ago, and no one knew what that meant. Like, when I say I'm a sustainability consultant, people are just like, okay, cool. Like, does that mean you're a business sustainability? Like, you want to make my business more sustainable financially? And I'm like, no. That's good. I didn't think about it that way, but no. And then I say, okay, it's about the environment. And like, okay, like, do you do like energy assessments? And I'm like, no, but I could. And so you have to kind of re-educate people. So now I start with reducing waste, and that seems to be a lot more like resonate with people more. It's about physical waste and understanding how our physical waste and reducing it connects with all other parts of sustainability. It's kind of like it's a gateway in my head, and I'm trying to communicate with that with other people.
Marketing now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is good. That's what we're here for a little bit. As far as putting together your business plan, who are like the people that you think need your services the most? Yeah,
so it's definitely, so when I was thinking about it, creating this idea, it was mostly like your local coffee shop, like a small business with under 50 employees, like really small, not a lot of like cooks in the kitchen, basically. It's just, there already exists corporate social responsibility. So like big companies, like consulting companies like Deloitte, and like big companies go into like the Patagonias, the North Faces, like bigger companies, and they have these whole strategy plans that they can do, and they can talk about carbon offsets and like supply chain. On
massive scale.
Yeah, and like
little
there's all
guys
this reporting. Right, they don't have the resources, both time and money, to do all that stuff, but they can still make equivalent impact. So it's like saying, okay, I mean, Seattle already has this covered, so like this is not an example of what I would suggest, but going from styrofoam in the Midwest to compostable stuff, like that's an easy thing that you can do a cost-benefit analysis and make that change. If you were doing this over a huge scale, there would be so much other things to think about. You have to think about like, how do we get all this stuff here, like thinking about supply chain a lot more in depth. But if it's just a one little coffee shop, change your cups from styrofoam to compostable. Yeah, exactly. So that was like my target client, someone who can do those quick changes and can give me all the information in a short amount of time to make those changes.
Why do you think people don't make those changes initially? Is it just because they don't know?
I think it's education. I don't think people are uneducated, but what I mean is that when people say make sustainable choices, immediately what I think people think of is this more expensive and it's more work. So if you automatically think that anything I do to be more sustainable is going to cost me more money, a business owner does not want to consider that, because the whole point is to increase their profits, and that's just the opposite of that. Right. So you have to think about it on a larger scale. And the most recent selling point that I thought of is that in the city of Seattle, well, at least with Seattle Public Utilities, you have different size trash cans you can have, and if you can reduce your trash can from a 96 gallon to a 64 gallon, that's a 2/3 reduction, you can save hundreds of dollars per year on your trash bill.
That sounds great too.
Yeah, exactly. So if I sell you that, and then I say, okay, your trash is made up of coffee cups that you could easily switch to compostable, that will get you down, and that will save you hundreds of dollars there. It might come a little bit up in the compostable alternative, but if you do the cost-benefit analysis and see the long-term benefits, then it's not that big of a deal.
The thing that I'm noticing as well is that consumers are asking questions now. And I think businesses now have a pressure that they haven't had before when customers are saying, hey, are you taking any steps to be sustainable?
Yes.
What is your observation of the market trend towards this?
Yeah, so I'm one of those consumers.
Yeah,
I selfishly created this company because I want this to happen. So when I go into a coffee shop or anything, I had, there was a cocktail hour I went to and they had straws in there. And I know Seattle has a straw ban, it has to be compostable, or else you get fined. But I still asked, I said, are these compostables, and where is your compost bin? Because they didn't have a compost bin. They just expected people to know that you're supposed to take this all the way to that side of the room and go compost them. So I'm the one asking people questions and saying, what are you doing about this? I know you switched to compostable, but do you actually understand, that consumers need all of the tools to make this work? You can't just buy compostable things and then throw them in the trash. That's not helping.
Right.
So yeah, I'm one of those nosy consumers who will just bug people can I bring my own container? Will you take this back? Is this recyclable? I'm always asking those questions.
I think that's really exciting because there's a huge push for it.
Yeah.
I'm curious in this realm about your thoughts on Green New Deal.
Yeah.
Are you tapped in or involved or know anything?
No, I do know so I know bits and pieces of it, and I appreciate everything that it's trying to do. I guess the most educated thing I could say about it is I think that we need to get to a point where we are doing all of those things. I don't know if proposing the Green New Deal as this is our climate change program right now is going to be effective. I think it's a step-by-step thing. So if we're deciding that the Green New Deal is what we're going to be doing over the next 50 years to make sure that we don't screw up our planet, I'm not sure that that's the right way to do it. I think it's going to be an adaptive plan that kind of changes as we go.
Instead of being super complete
Yeah, because
shift.
it is very ambitious. Yeah. Not that we don't need to be doing those things. I 100% agree with all of the motivation behind them. But if we're saying we need to have 100% renewable energy and all of our agriculture needs to be restorative and
possibly an impossible goal.
Yeah, so making it too overwhelming for people to understand might be the opposite effect of what we want.
Got it.
It's the same thing with talking about climate change and carbon emissions and tons of carbon emissions. Talking to someone on the street, they don't know what 1,000 tons of carbon emissions means for their everyday life. But if we say that you need to stop using styrofoam, that's one little thing I can do, and then take it one step at a time.
So in that vein,
yeah,
most people I think want to be, myself included, want to be more sustainable.
Yeah.
But it is sometimes I have to change my habits.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think is the best thing for people myself or average folk to do to be more sustainable?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. I don't know if I can give you you should always do this. I don't think I have that answer. What has helped me be more sustainable, and I'm not perfect by any means. I'm not saying that I do everything right at all.
We're all trying.
Yeah, exactly. We're all just trying. But it's being conscious of where things are coming from and where things are going. I think having that in the back of my mind at all times helps me be more sustainable. For example, thinking about like why I'm so passionate about small business in particular is that when I buy from a small business, I'm buying from Mary on the corner, who's probably my neighbor and will put her kids in school at the school on my corner. And that money stays in my neighborhood or in my city. And that to me is just like, okay, that makes sense. I want to do that. I don't want to give my money to Joe Schmo on the hill who
runs 10 chains and I don't know where this meat is coming from.
Doesn't give a crap about me or like anything that I care about. So where my money's coming from and where it's going. Thinking about sourcing material. So why would styrofoam be worse than like a compostable thing? Is that when you throw away styrofoam, it can break into little pieces. It can get into the ocean. It like won't ever biodegrade.
It's just bad.
Yeah, no, I mean that's an obvious thing. But then compostable, like it can go back into the soil. It can create nutrition for people, for cities. Like just thinking about like what that circle of life looks like. Yeah, and that's how I make all my decisions.
Is like what companies do you think do this really well?
That's a good question because I think a lot of companies do pieces of it really well. I don't know if there is a single company out there that does all of it well. And the reason for that is because companies and like capitalism intrinsically wants to make money and sell more product and put more things out there.
Yeah.
And that's totally the antithesis
yes.
of being sustainable.
This is funny because on Patreon we had someone ask, basically we were like, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
And the question is, this is from Piers Rippey, what does Moji think about the seeming contradiction of trying to build sustainability
100%.
into an economic system that prioritizes limitless growth?
100%.
Is there any way to mediate it?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, you know? Like, I can't tell business owner A, like, you should just sell less stuff. That's how you, that's how you make it better.
Yeah.
Even though that's what I want in my heart, but, like, that doesn't make sense for a business, and that doesn't make sense for capitalism. So it's just, if you want to sell 1,000 widgets per year, make sure that it's the most sustainable way that you can possibly do it. So that widget better be able to be fully recycled, composted, like, that better be coming from people, like, making fair wages, and the materials better not be toxic to the environment. Mm-hmm. That's like the best we can do with the systems that we currently have.
I saw, like, speaking of like widgets,
yeah.
that you had a toothbrush that you were getting rid of. Like, what other products are you a fan of that you tend to be promoting?
Yeah, I don't really tend to promote products. Like I said, it's all about the circle of life.
Right, to knowing where it comes from.
Yeah, so I don't really, like, I'm not beholden to specific brands. Like, I don't really care, but I do use a bamboo toothbrush. The toothbrush can be taken apart, so the bristles are nylon, so you remove those, and then you compost the head. So all you have is, like, little bristles as your trash. Same with my dish brush is also fully compostable. Yeah, like my soap bar is just like a bar of soap. It's fully biodegradable. So yeah, I just use things that will disappear eventually.
I know this because of your Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's pretty active, which I really appreciate.
Thanks.
I feel like I have like a lot of information about your business. What's your approach as far as social media or online presence?
Yeah, so I have 2 active Instagram accounts. I have one called Hippie Moji, that's like my personal life that could be environmental or not, and then I have my Blule Daisi Consulting, like, business one. So for my personal one, I really just share, like, it's a lot about, like, mental health and, like, starting a business, imposter syndrome, and also with sprinklings of things that I do to be nicer to the planet. So it's not all, like, hippie stuff, but it kind of is. That's kind of
That's
who I am.
You are. Yeah.
It's who I am. So yeah, like talking about how some days, like, I mean, I started a business 6 months ago. I'm not an expert in anything, like, but then I'm on this podcast trying to pretend like I'm an expert.
Exude credibility.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm still confident in my ideas and like what I'm doing, but I'm not an expert. So I'm learning as we go. And then for my business, I try to just share what I'm doing so people like you know what's going on. So I try not to be too spammy about it, but I still want people to know, like, oh, she does that. That's in the back of my head. Like, okay.
To balance.
Yeah, exactly.
How old are you?
25.
25. That's incredible.
Thanks.
You've done so much.
I've done a lot of things.
Yeah. That's very impressive.
Thanks.
I think on this podcast specifically,
Yeah.
I'm always surprised to hear people's ages because they've lived so many lifetimes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
On your Instagram, you're doing so much networking. I see that you're going to a ton of meetups.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh. So that's kind of an accident because we were talking, I'm an introvert. I don't know if any of you picked that up, but you probably couldn't pick that up. But I am a hardcore introvert. I need, like, after this, I'm going to go, like, under my bed sheets and then prepare for Game of Thrones and then not coming out till Monday. Like, I need my alone time. But when I moved here, well, before I actually moved here, I started tapping in on Instagram to communities that I resonated with. So Seattle Zero Waste is a community of zero waste, or people in Seattle who believe that zero waste is the way that we all should be living. So we talk about, like, solutions, like companies that we know that are doing good stuff, and we share resources, and it's just like dinner every month, and we just kind of hang out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so like
Who organizes that?
So there are actually 4 women, and if you just Google SeattleZeroWaste.com, they have like the calendar events, all of their like mission statement, everything.
That's
so
really cool.
They're a really great resource if you're interested in sustainability. But like the week I moved here, I went to that event because I was like, these are my people. I'm gonna show up and meet all my best friends, and I mean they were my people. Like we all have the same beliefs. So just going to that a couple of times, I've been maybe like a handful of times since I've been here. Just like meeting people who have the exact same wavelength as you. So we all like this. We like going to farmers markets. We like
it all aligns. It's a lifestyle choice.
Exactly. Yeah. So we all have the same things in common. So they all showed me like where all the cool things that I already like to do, where they are here. So now I know
that you're so lucky.
Yeah.
Because I think other folks that I talk to are asking like, where do I find my people?
Yes.
I don't know where they are.
Yes.
And you have the opposite problem. You're like, I found it from day one.
Yeah, and it's a little more complex than that because so I've lived, like I said, in a bunch of different cities.
Right.
So I've had to experience. So I lived in a college town where I went to college for 4 years, and I knew like the town back and forth. I moved to Milwaukee, and I lived with a cohort of people that were all my age. So those years, like, my friend groups were already kind of built in. But when I moved to Madison, I was in the professional world, and all of my coworkers are 10 years above me, and so I had to figure this out. So those 3 years in Madison actually helped set me up to be successful in Seattle, where I was like, I don't even know what I'm about yet. Like, I like yoga, I guess. Like, I'll go to a yoga studio. Like, it's hard to make friends at a yoga studio. Like, you gotta figure out, like, what you like to do, and then you plug yourself in there. So I kind of experimented in Madison, figured out, like, who I am, what I'm about, and I just found the exact same communities in Seattle and just plugged myself right in there. So it took a lot of discovering, but yeah.
Nice. A lot of other business owners, too?
Yeah, there are a couple of entrepreneurial, like, networking groups that I've met. There's like a bunch of Black women that are like professionals that I just kind of have met, or people of color in general, kind of like to congregate in the same spaces. Yeah. So I just kind of like met those people through those people. So
great.
Yeah.
You're making so many moves.
Yeah.
What's next? What's the next step?
Oh my gosh.
Did you finish this work with this first client?
Yeah, so that actually was a little bit ago. So what I've recently started up are doing trash audits, and I actually had one this morning, and it was really fun. And it's kind of weird that I think it's fun, but I literally will go to a business and I will dig through their trash can. I'll separate all the things out and weigh them and tell them like by weight, what percentage of their trash is each thing. So like you have like 10% of your trash is food wrappers. Like, can we do something about this? Or just give them a report back. And I'm doing that for free right now, just to like kind of test the waters and see if people care. Yeah, see if people even care about that information. If you don't, like I'll stop doing it. But if you do, I can help you with that. And then going forward from there, creating a plan of how to reduce that waste or divert it to other places so that it's getting recycled properly and so forth. So yeah, that's like the rest of the summer for me. Yeah.
I'm excited for you because it just seems like there's limitless ways that this can go.
Yeah.
Since it's uncharted territory, is there anyone or like that's providing coaching or guidance in this business? Not
specifically, but I am making a lot of friends who are in the startup phases of their own businesses. So I'm kind of getting like co-mentored by new business owners as well. So we're all just kind of trying to figure out like, how do we make money off of our good ideas? Like, that's the first step.
Yeah.
So like that, there's that. And then I'm also trying to make friends in the sustainability space. So people who are doing completely different versions of sustainability, trying to just meet them and eventually partner with them. So that's another like way I'm trying to expand my tentacles into other parts of sustainability.
You're very involved.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Thanks.
As far as like people that inspire you, that are maybe leaders or just folks that you like in this sphere, who's inspiring you?
I don't know if I have any inspirations like in sustainability specifically. I think honestly, any Black woman who's doing cool stuff out there. So like, I recently just read Retta. Do you know Retta? She's a comedian. She was Donna in Parks and Rec. She's an actress.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I may have seen.
I just read her book, and then Phoebe Robinson is also a comedian. Really, just any Black woman who's doing cool stuff. I'm just like, how do you do it? I read their books, I read their blogs, and try to be like them in some way.
That's rad.
Yeah, thanks.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming
you.
on our show. I'm glad to like know about your business and how you're doing. And it seems like you have so much to do.
Yes.
And,
a lot of work to do.
Right. And I'm very excited about it. If any of y'all have questions, fire them our way. But also check out Hippie Moji and also Blule Daisi Consulting for any of your needs.
Absolutely. Yeah.